Hello, dear listeners. Welcome back to the English Learning Podcast. I'm your host, Emilia, and I'm thrilled to have you with us today. In this episode, we'll be diving into a fundamental skill for anyone learning English: how to introduce yourself effectively.
Hi, everyone. I'm Liam, your co-host. Whether you're meeting someone new at a party, introducing yourself in a job interview, or even just starting a conversation in class, knowing how to present yourself is essential.
Absolutely, Liam. A good introduction can set the tone for a conversation. It's not just about sharing your name, it's also about making a memorable impression.
Right. And while it may seem simple, many people struggle with how to do it in English, especially if it's not their first language. So today, we'll cover the key elements of an effective self-introduction.
That's right. We'll talk about what to include in your introduction, some common mistakes to avoid, and how to adapt your approach depending on the situation.
We'll also share a fun dialogue between our friends, Sophie and Robin, to illustrate these points in a real-life context. Plus, we'll break down their conversation and highlight some key vocabulary words that can help you improve your self-introduction skills.
So, whether you're preparing for a big event or just want to feel more confident in everyday conversations, this episode is for you.
Let's get started. It's time to learn how to introduce yourself in English and make those first impressions count.
All right, let's dive deeper into our main topic: how to introduce yourself in English. Liam, when we talk about self-introductions, what do you think are the key elements that everyone should include?
Great question, Emilia. A good self-introduction typically includes three main components: your name, a bit about your background, and your interests or hobbies. This gives the listener a well-rounded picture of who you are.
Absolutely. Let's break those down a bit. Starting with your name, it sounds simple, but the way you present your name can make a difference. For example, you might say, "Hi, I'm Liam," or "Hello, my name is Liam Smith." What do you think works better?
Both are perfectly fine, but it really depends on the context. In a casual setting, just, "Hi, I'm Liam," feels friendly and approachable. In a formal situation, like a job interview, "Hello, my name is Liam Smith," might be more appropriate.
Exactly. Now, moving on to the background part. This could include where you're from, your education, or your job. For instance, you could say, "I'm from Toronto, Canada, and I work as a graphic designer."
Right, and I think it's important to keep it relevant to the situation. If you're at a networking event, mentioning your job might be more relevant. But if you're at a casual gathering, talking about where you're from or a hobby could be more engaging.
Yes, it's all about connecting with your audience. Speaking of connections, let's talk about the final part: your interests or hobbies. This part adds a personal touch.
Exactly. Sharing your interests invites the listener to engage with you further. For example, saying, "I love hiking and photography," can open up opportunities for conversation if the listener shares similar interests.
Great point. Now, let's discuss how to adapt our introductions based on the audience. How can we tailor our introductions for different situations?
Good question. In formal settings, it's best to keep it professional and concise. You might say, "I'm a software engineer specializing in artificial intelligence." In informal settings, you can be more relaxed, like, "I'm Liam, and I love trying out new recipes on weekends."
That's a perfect example. Also, remember that body language and eye contact play a big role in making a good first impression. Smiling and maintaining eye contact can make you seem more approachable and confident.
Absolutely. And let's not forget the importance of practicing your introduction. The more comfortable you are with your words, the more natural it will feel when you say them.
Yes, practice really does make perfect. It's helpful to rehearse in front of a mirror or with a friend. This will help you feel more confident when introducing yourself in real situations.
And don't be afraid to ask for feedback from friends or teachers. They can offer valuable insights on how to improve your introduction.
Exactly. So, to recap, when introducing yourself in English, remember to include your name, a bit about your background, and your interests. Adapt your introduction to the context, maintain good body language, and practice regularly.
That's a great summary, Emilia. Now that we've discussed these essential elements of self-introduction, let's move on to our next segment where we'll listen to a real-life dialogue between Sophie and Robin. They'll demonstrate how to apply what we've just talked about.
Hi there. Is this seat taken?
Oh, no. Feel free to sit.
Thanks. By the way, I'm Sophie.
Nice to meet you, Sophie. I'm Robin.
Nice to meet you too, Robin. So, are you a regular here?
Yeah, I come here often to work on my writing. It's kind of like my second office. What about you?
Oh, cool. This is my first time here. A friend recommended this place because I needed somewhere quiet to read and study.
It's a great spot for that. What are you studying, if you don't mind me asking?
Not at all. I'm actually studying psychology. I'm in my final year at university.
Wow, psychology. That's amazing. Do you have a specific area you're interested in?
Yeah, I'm really passionate about child psychology. I've always wanted to work with kids and help them understand their emotions better.
That sounds like such rewarding work. I'm sure you'll do great.
Thanks. What about you? You said you're a writer. What kind of writing do you do?
I'm actually a freelance content writer. I mostly write articles and blogs for different websites. It's pretty flexible, so I get to work from anywhere, like this coffee shop.
That sounds like a dream. Being able to work from anywhere must be really nice.
Yeah, it gives me the freedom to manage my own schedule. Plus, I get to write about a variety of topics, so it never gets boring.
That's awesome. I wish I could have that kind of flexibility once I start working. Hopefully, I'll find a balance when I get into the field.
I'm sure you will. By the way, it's great that you're studying psychology. It's such an important field, especially in today's world.
Thanks, Robin. And I really admire how you've turned your passion for writing into a career. That's inspiring.
I appreciate that. If you ever need help with writing or want to know more about freelancing, feel free to ask. I'd be happy to share some tips.
That's so kind of you. I'll definitely take you up on that offer sometime.
Sure thing. Well, it was really nice meeting you, Sophie.
Same here, Robin. I'm glad I decided to sit here today.
Yeah, it turned out to be a great conversation.
Absolutely. Maybe I'll see you around here again soon.
I hope so. Have a great rest of your day.
You too.
And there you have it. That was Sophie and Robin meeting for the first time and introducing themselves. Did you notice how natural their conversation felt?
Exactly. Sophie and Robin didn't just introduce themselves and stop. They kept the conversation going by asking questions and showing interest in each other's lives, which is key to building connections.
And they used some great phrases like, "Nice to meet you," and "What about you?" to keep things flowing. Now that we've heard Sophie and Robin's conversation, let's break it down and highlight some important aspects of their introduction and the way they kept the conversation going.
Yes, let's start with the first thing Sophie said. "Hi there! Is this seat taken?" She didn't jump straight into introducing herself, which is a common way to start casual conversations. She asked a question that opened the door to interaction in a friendly way.
Exactly. It's a great reminder that introductions often happen naturally after you've already started a conversation. Sophie introduced herself after Robin welcomed her, saying, "By the way, I'm Sophie." This phrase, "by the way," is a really useful and casual way to introduce yourself when the conversation is already underway.
Robin responded with, "Nice to meet you, Sophie. I'm Robin." The phrase, "Nice to meet you," is classic and polite, perfect for both formal and informal settings. Notice how Robin immediately kept the conversation going by asking Sophie about her experience at the coffee shop. That's key, don't stop at the introduction.
Right. And Sophie kept it going as well by giving a little more information about herself when she said, "This is my first time here," and then shared that she was studying psychology. Adding details like that helps the other person know more about you and makes it easier for them to ask follow-up questions.
That's so true. Sophie and Robin did a great job of sharing just the right amount of personal information, enough to create interest, but not too much too fast. And both of them asked great follow-up questions to keep the conversation flowing naturally.
Exactly. Robin asked Sophie about her studies, which is a great way to show interest and keep the conversation going. Later, Sophie did the same by asking Robin about his writing, leading to a deeper conversation about their passions and interests.
That's another key point, finding common ground. By talking about their jobs and hobbies, Sophie and Robin found ways to connect beyond just the basic introduction.
And notice how the conversation stayed balanced. Both Sophie and Robin shared a bit about themselves and asked questions in return. It's really important to keep that balance in conversations, so it doesn't feel one-sided.
Definitely. And finally, let's talk about how they ended the conversation. Sophie wrapped it up by expressing how glad she was to have met Robin, which left a positive impression and encouraged the possibility of continuing the conversation later.
That's such a great point, Liam. Ending on a positive note, like Sophie did with, "I'm glad I decided to sit here today," leaves a lasting impression. It shows appreciation and warmth, which can lead to future connections.
Exactly. So, to summarize, when introducing yourself, it's important to start with a question or greeting to break the ice. Share your name naturally after the conversation has started. Keep the conversation going by asking questions and sharing relevant details. Find common ground and balance the conversation. End on a positive and friendly note.
That's a great breakdown, Liam. Now that we've explored the key elements of Sophie and Robin's conversation, let's move on to our vocabulary segment, where we'll highlight some useful words and phrases that came up in the dialogue.
Yes, these words and phrases are super useful when introducing yourself in English. Let's get started.
Our first key phrase is self-introduction. This simply means the act of presenting yourself to others by sharing details like your name, profession, or hobbies. It's essential when meeting new people, whether in a formal setting like a job interview or an informal one like a casual conversation.
Example sentence. In my self-introduction, I usually mention my hobbies to break the ice.
Next up is background. In this context, it refers to a person's education, experience, or history. When introducing yourself, mentioning your background can give people a better idea of who you are and what you've done in the past.
Example sentence. She has a background in graphic design, which helped her land a creative job.
Our third key phrase is first impression. This refers to the initial perception someone forms about you when they meet you for the first time. Making a good first impression is important because it sets the tone for future interactions.
Example sentence. Making a good first impression during an interview is crucial to stand out from other candidates.
The next word is tailor. To tailor, something means to customize or adjust it to fit a particular situation or audience. When introducing yourself, it's a good idea to tailor what you say depending on who you're speaking to, whether it's a casual or formal situation.
Example sentence. You should tailor your introduction depending on whether you're speaking to a friend or a potential employer.
And our final word is engage. In this context, engage means to participate or become actively involved. When introducing yourself, it's important to engage your audience by making your introduction interesting and interactive so they feel involved in the conversation.
Example sentence. It's important to engage the audience when introducing yourself to make a lasting impression.
Those are some great words and phrases to remember when introducing yourself in English. Let's quickly recap them. self-introduction, background, first impression, tailor, and engage.
Exactly. These words will help you make your introduction smoother, more confident, and tailored to different situations. Don't forget to practice using them in real-life conversations.
Well, that brings us to the end of today's episode. We hope you enjoyed learning about how to introduce yourself in English and picked up some valuable tips along the way.
Absolutely. Let's quickly recap the main points we discussed. First, we talked about the importance of a strong self-introduction and how it can set the tone for your conversation. Then, we went over key elements like sharing your name, profession, and hobbies, and tailoring your introduction depending on the situation.
Yes, and we also heard a real-life conversation between Sophie and Robin, which gave us a great example of how to apply those techniques in a natural way. After that, we broke down that conversation and discussed 5 key vocabulary words: self-introduction, background, first impression, tailor, and engage. All important terms that you can use in your daily conversations.
Exactly, Emilia. We hope you feel more confident now when introducing yourself to someone new, whether it's in a casual setting or a more professional one. Remember, practice makes perfect, so don't be afraid to try it out.
Now, before we wrap up, here's our reminder for you. If you found this episode helpful, don't forget to subscribe to our channel, share it with your friends, and leave a review to let us know how we're doing.
And be sure to check out the description for useful resources and links. We've included some great materials to help you practice your English introductions and expand your vocabulary.
Thank you so much for tuning in today. We really appreciate you spending time with us.
Take care, everyone, and see you in the next episode.
Goodbye.